Burlington's interim police chief says accountability is at the root of many of the Queen City's problems. Sean Burke joins host Mark Johnson in City Hall Park for this week's episode of the 802 News Podcast. Let's take a listen.
I've been back here in Burlington for 6 months. We've had more happen in the last 6 months than I had in the 7 years in South Burlington. But this is the policing that Burlington typically delivers. And if you like grit in your work and you really want a challenge, there's only one place in the state of Vermont to work, and that's for the Burlington Police. It's unique, but it is the most rewarding policing an individual could experience.
And Mark joins us now. Thanks for being here.
You bet.
So interim Chief Burke spent years with South Burlington Police before returning back to a post at BPD. Why did he come back?
He felt that coming back to Burlington, where he was in Burlington 21 years before he went over to South Burlington, he really felt that this was his highest and best use. He said the general tenure of a police chief is about 7 years or so. And there were discussions that went on with the South Burlington city manager, Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek in Burlington. And, because of his long-standing career in Burlington, he really felt he could be the person who could thaw the relationship that was a little chilly between the previous chief and the mayor, the state's attorney's office. And he's hopeful that he can be constructive in helping in that direction.
And when he talks about a lack of accountability with you, what does he mean by that?
Wow, it was pretty wide-ranging. I mean, he talks about lack of accountability in families, in schools, but really in terms of the criminal justice system. One of the things that he pointed out is that unless you get charged with a violent crime, you're going to be let out on bail, and then there are these repeat offenses that happen, and he really feels that something needs to be done about that. The other problem is that there's such a backlog at the court. A lot of people point their finger at the state's attorney's office, but the truth is Sarah George has been dealing with attempted murder and murder cases. In the meantime, the backload of cases is building up, and what happens then is if you're a repeat offender, you know that. So you know that the consequences, there's going to be a plea bargain in all likelihood offered to you. And the chief just feels that that's not really a way to hold people accountable for their actions.
All right, so then what does he think needs to be done differently?
Well, number one, the backlog, there's this effort that's going to be made by the state to try to offer help. He said, number one, they need more help over the state's attorney's office. The other area he talked about was the Department of Corrections. There are a lot of people that are out on conditions of release that he said, are clearly violating the conditions of release. And he'd like to reestablish that relationship with the Department of Corrections and have those people violated for violating those conditions of release and perhaps be put back in jail before they go to trial.
Mm-hmm. And what hopes does he have for the city's future, given some of these challenges we reported on for months now regarding the downtown and people's kind of unwillingness to go down there because they don't perceive it as a safe space anymore?
Well, including his mom, who he went downtown with along with his wife to celebrate his birthday. And she said, I said, well, she was with you. That might help. But he made a couple of interesting points on that. We used to, in years back, talk about, well, you don't want to go near North Street. Well, North Street is now been gentrified, is an area that I think most people feel generally is pretty safe. He's hopeful that a lot of the new housing that's coming in downtown will bring more people to the downtown. And his feeling is that the more people you get downtown, the better it's going to be. People are just going to feel safer. And, we were sitting in City Hall Park. There were people that were violating ordinances, as you will hear in the interview. And, he says those people need to be ticketed and accounted for so that City Hall Park feels like it's a safe place to be.
Mm-hmm. You can, of course, listen to the newest episode of the 802 News Podcast on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. Mark Johnson, thanks for your time.
You bet.